Kia ora koutou, and a very warm welcome to everybody to our council meeting this morning, which I will just note is being live streamed on council's Facebook page. If we could all please stand for our opening karakia. Te tawa mai runga, te tawa mai raro, te tawa mai roto, te tawa mai waho. Kia tau mai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa. Hongi e, hui e, tai e. We have no apologies. Do we have any conflicts of interest? We do have some guests with us today in our public forum, so a very warm welcome to all of you. And first I would like to invite Robin Gwynn, who I'm sure we are all familiar with, who is here today to talk to us about St John's Cathedral. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I want to ask you this morning to consider what price you can put on a unique story in this country, an unparalleled story of resurrection and hope in the face of disaster. It's a story with several strands across our history here in Napier. The first strand came in the Victorian period, when our forebears built a cathedral because it was agreed and accepted that we would never be a proper city without one. The 1888 brick cathedral was destroyed in the 1931 earthquake. Napier people again agreed it was essential to the city, although it was well recognised that we were the only diocese in New Zealand, unfortunately, to have been compelled to rebuild our cathedral twice. The feeling again after the 1931 earthquake was widespread, from the Daily Telegraph, which strongly urged the urgency of rebuilding, to the 400 young people who gathered from across the diocese and met on Marine Parade. A Cathedral Day of Giving was part of the week of celebrations to mark Napier attaining civic status. The building of the new cathedral was accompanied by stress on the goodwill and unity of its support as being as important as the money raised to effect it. If you're not used to going to the cathedral, you may not be aware of an unexpected postscript to the storyline at the heart of Napier's history, at the back of the present cathedral. It stands in the form of a cross made out of medieval European nails hammered together. It's at the very back of the church behind the font. It was donated in the 1950s by Coventry Cathedral in England, which had been flattened by Nazi bombardment in World War II, as a gift to us, where the cathedral had been flattened in 1931, while both cathedrals were being rebuilt following unimaginable horror and disaster. Before I go any further, I need to say I'm not here on behalf of the cathedral any more than I'm here on behalf of having been a past city councillor. But I am both those things, and they both taught me something about Napier and its history. And I think this is a very important issue. Within the cathedral parish, of which I am an ordinary member, I'm not a member of the vestry or hold any office, but I'm a member of a group which met a couple of months ago to consider what we could do in the face of the challenges we're facing in this present year. and we reported on what we had to say from our group to our vestry. I think it was the next day after that that you decided to declare the cathedral to be a historic place. I can't remember your precise words, but that was the essence of it. And that really killed the conversation that my group had started, because it was pointless, actually. As I looked at what you chose to do with regard to the cathedral, I thought, well, if I was still on council, I could expect to see one of three things. I thought the most likely, actually, was that nothing would be done, because heaven knows we were all shell-shocked enough by the events of the cyclone. And if that had happened, I wouldn't be here. The second was what you chose to do, and I think it was quite the wrong thing to do for reasons that I'm hoping to make clear. But you didn't do what I would have thought was the obvious thing to do, which was to declare that in Napier the cathedral was a fundamental building. And the history that I've just outlined says it has, from day one, been an absolutely fundamental building for Napier and its history. And I don't think that's any different today. That's really the point that I want to make. Indeed, I suggest that you should declare it to be so in whatever the correct form is. It's what I think you should have done in the first place, rather than worrying about the historic places side, which is outranked in significance for the city by the whole history of the place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. We will open up for questions. Before we do that, I'll just foreshadow that Robin and I did catch up last week and had a conversation about this, and I undertook to seek clarity from council officers about a fundamental building category that we may have within council, which would give us the ability to essentially protect the cathedral under this categorisation. Initial findings, we couldn't see anything immediately, but I have gone back and asked the council officers to continue to dig, and are still waiting for further feedback from on that, Robin. So we'll certainly update you as soon as I've heard from council officers about that. And I have said as well that we weren't 100% certain about the wording, whether it was a fundamental building or and explained sort of what the purpose of the category was, so that we can do some proper research about that. So that piece of work is underway. So yeah, I will just open up to councillors for any questions. Maxine.
Thank you, Dr. Gwynn, for that presentation. If nothing is done, if nothing further is done, what is the prognosis for the cathedral from now on?
It's a very good question, and I'm not well placed to answer it, because I'm not part of any diocesan committee that might know the answer. I think you are in discussions with the diocesan authorities, and they will have a much clearer idea than I do. What my personal reaction when I saw what you'd done was, you very likely destroyed it. Cathedral is, whatever else it is not a wealthy cathedral. It never has been. Its numbers have been hit by COVID and the cyclone and all the other problems that we all share. And if the cathedral cannot survive and maintain it in the way it has in the past, and I think there have to be doubts about that, especially given the legal position you've adopted, which basically says, well, you can't actually make any changes anywhere, or even go and change a tile, actually, without getting authority, all of which is extremely expensive. I thought that the likelihood might well be that it was put in cotton wool and waited to fall down. At the same time, I could not believe that anyone in this city would believe that was a desirable thing to happen. But I think it's the most likely result of what you've chosen to do. So well, it answers your question, but not in a way that I find very satisfactory.
So I guess for further clarity, where we are at this point in time is that the cathedral has been included in the proposed district plan as a heritage listed building. So it is going through the district plan hearings process, and there has been ongoing conversations between council officers and cathedral leaders in terms of what that means and how we can work together to get the best possible outcome. And the challenge is that the heritage listing combined with the seismic issues that have been identified in the building has, I guess, increased the costs to actually rectify what would need to be done for the seismic issues in the cathedral. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Gwynn. Lovely to see you. I did, if it's all right through you, Your Worship, just want to make a couple of comments because I do have the pleasure of sitting on that district plan hearing, and I did want to give you some certainty. For instance, council hasn't chosen to do something; it has proposed, and in terms of framing it up in a question, my question is: have you had an update from the cathedral consultants following their submission to the proposed district plan? Because my observation was that they made a very clear case for an alternative categorisation, which was supported by the panel, and we sent staff off to work with the cathedral's consultants to work through what that might look like, and which is coming back in reply. So it's sort of in the middle of a process from my perspective. It's not something council has decided to do. It did first, off the back of your very, very correct heritage notes at the beginning, make the assessment it was a very important building to Napier, so put it in the proposed category it did, and then it has heard the submission and is requesting more information on what that new category could look like. So I just wonder if you've had an opportunity to be updated since those hearings.
No, I haven't. As I say, I'm speaking purely as an individual. The only thing exceptional about my qualifications is that I am a professional historian. And I don't think there is any city in this country which could match the story of Napier's, both in the original decision to build in a most implausible place, then to rebuild, then 1931, where some of the saddest of all the stories of the earthquake centered around the cathedral, and to rebuild after that. And throughout, there has actually always been a very close relationship between the city as a city and the cathedral. I mean, as far as what I know, the cathedral people have done their best to keep us posted, but they're not fully clear on exactly where they're ending up any more than you are, and so we're all a bit vague. I'm actually sorry there wasn't a discussion before this whole process started. That seems to me the missing bit. I mean, the parishioners at the cathedral have not actually. We've met to be informed on what's happened. So I've got, to that extent, some information, but we have not actually been asked. Can we, what our individual circumstances are, and can we, between us, produce enough money to do it? I know I've done this process for my own family, and I know what we can produce, and I have informed the Bishop and the Dean what we can produce. But I don't know how many people have got that far in their thinking either. And I'm not unfortunately, old Hawke's Bay wealth, and never have been. So while I can produce something which is substantial from the point of view of my family, it's not going to be enough to cope with what I reckon is probably at a minimum around 15 million. I agree there's a lot of water under the bridge, and the more discussions the better, I think. But I don't want to see the very unique situation of Napier's Cathedral actually forgotten. And I think there are lots of people in this city who are quite unaware of it. Indeed, for that matter, there are probably quite a number of parishioners in the cathedral who are quite unaware even of the medieval cross at the back. I do think more discussion is needed, but I definitely think that a city which has been blessed through the activities of our past residents with a story of such power can simply ditch it. And the worst case scenario I could see is indeed putting the whole thing in cotton wool so it can't actually fall on and damage people, and leaving it to rot. I don't know what your imaginings are for what the city is going to look like in 30 years' time, but I can't help feeling it would be likely to include cruise ship visits, and I don't think people would be very impressed if that were what was happening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Quinn, and your concerns are definitely heard around the table, but I would like to reiterate what the Deputy Mayor said in terms of there's been no final decision has been made by Council at this point in time, so there is ongoing conversations between the commissioners involved in the hearing and the cathedral leaders and consultants. So we will certainly also encourage information be shared with the parishioners so that you can understand where we are in the process.
Thank you.
Thank you. One quick question, but we do need to keep moving.
Sorry, through the mayor. Thank you, Robin. As I got married in the cathedral, and so did my parents, and very, a lot of history in there. I guess what you've said about the fundraising from the community, that's something that we haven't seen any. A lot of the public don't know. So, is your group that you're talking about, are they prepared to go public and drive this?
Well, the group I was part of was the Environment, Peace and Justice group that meets, or used to meet, in the cathedral. And what we actually were approaching our vestry about was the use of the cathedral faced by the challenges of 2025 and climate change. The cathedral has, amongst other things, a very large roof, and it seemed to us that this needed to be investigated, probably best investigated by a joint effort of diocesan people and city council people. But one of the things that's extraordinary in Napier, which has one of the sunniest records in the country, is if you go and when conditions allow and you can actually go onto the lookout places on Clyde Road and look down on the cathedral, what really strikes me in such a sunny area is the extraordinary absence of solar panels in central Napier. Well, what's happened in very, very many European cities, as we're well aware in our group, is that cathedrals have taken a lead, and some very surprising cathedrals, which you might think were far too difficult for one reason or another to have solar panels, but I mean, even Salisbury Cathedral, which is an extreme spire of great note, but it's got panels, and a good many cathedrals in Europe have panels and clearly have acted as a way in which the community could get together to work out the next stages. And that's really what I would like to see, but it's more than someone who's not attached to the relevant bodies can come up with. If anyone wants to have a meeting to try and bring them together, I'd be delighted.
Thank you very much. And once again, Dr. Gwynn, thank you for taking time to come and speak to us today.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
The second guests in our public forum today are Parapi Smith and Te Kaha Waikarangi from Atiarangi Educational Trust, who are here to talk about the trust and the relationship with the Waka Hub. So I welcome you both up to present to us. Thank you.
Atua tahi rā e pakuhi tēnei kia koutou e ngā kaumuano o tēnei wako o tēnei kaunahira e mihi kau atu kia koe te kahika tēnā koe ngā kai kaunahira nei rā te mihi ka tika ka te hea mua a maua ki te kōrero e pāna o tātou nei waka te matau a Māui me te kāinga hou mo tērā waka e mihi Ana kia koutou. Kia ora. Thanks for allowing us to come this morning and on the front end of George's item to follow in regards to our waka. Thank you. Ka pai. So the map that you see on the screen, and this is a refresher from some of the last conversations that we've had with the Council is finding a new home for our waka and refreshing some of those challenges that we mentioned in our last meetings, one being vandalism, having our life rafts cut, having our flag ripped down, people going on board drinking and the such, as well as the safety of our waka, damage from neighbouring vessels and the such. So finding a new safe home for our waka has been our priority, and of course with the support of the council. And so the red dot on the circle on the map identifies where we're looking to build our new home, our new kāinga for our waka. And initially the Iron Pot was identified, but because of infrastructure challenges and things that we had to look for a new site, we went through a multi-criteria analysis looking at the conditions inside the harbour and kind of the safest place for us to position our waka. And so the red circles where we've decided. But just on that as well, the late Trevor Taurima, a very well-known kaumātua of this area, was also renowned for his leadership in waka within Te Matau a Māui, within Hawke's Bay, but also within Napier, and bringing waka ama to Napier. Had called me a number of years ago and said, look, this is where he had envisioned Waka Hub going. So naturally it was one of the first sites that we went and observed and just watched the water movement and kind of identified that that would be a safe place for our waka. So that's the reason why that location was chosen.
Atamari koutou. Just to add to some of TK's kōrero there, going back even further, way back to the times when it was Te Whanganui a Orotu, and so in terms of historical importance and cultural importance, waka has always been important for mana whenua in Te Whanganui a Orotu in a harbour, and even back to the times when it was the harbour board and going back into the 1800s when Don McLean was actually sorting out the sale of the Ahuriri block. It was identified then that it was important for Māori to have a safe place for waka. Might not have been voyaging waka such as Te Matau a Māui, but it's still the cultural importance of waka in Ahuriri. Also, so just wanting to have a little bit of a kōrero so everyone here understands who we are in terms of the Atiarangi Education Trust. So we were initially established in 2017 to build the Atiarangi, of which we had help from the council here. And that's just sort of like an example of this is the next stage of what we were able to do with the Aotearangi. Previously, that was Hawke's Bay's biggest illegal rubbish dumping ground, and we've now changed that into a place of cultural importance, a place where just the general public can come down and learn, and also a place where we're able to bring visitors into the city. So our vision is to be a thriving intergenerational organisation, which gathers and passes on traditional mātauranga, traditional knowledge throughout Aotearoa and Te Moana Nui a Kiwa. So we are heavily involved. Our main values are to be involved in education and in the community.
Piripi mentioned Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, and that's at the heart of where our waka education is, and you can see by the top three pictures stretching from the eastern side of Te Moana Nui a Kiwa in the Pacific to the Solomons through to Tahiti and Hawaii. So the hub that we're looking to establish isn't just Aotearoa, it's the connection that we have with the wider Te Moana Nui a Kiwa. And of course, for the last 5,000 years, this knowledge, this mātauranga has built up, and at the heart of it's not just waka, it's voyaging, it's navigation, and it's our connection with all of our peoples within Te Moana Nui a Kiwa within the Pacific. The bottom two photos just represent some of the activities we do for the community, which we put on for free, which includes celebrating the equinox and the solstices, so 4 events a year, and sales such as the Anzac.
And here's just a few different images, just wanting to explain some of the involvement we have with different community groups, and particularly the type of visitors that come here. So, we're involved with a lot of different community groups such as Hohepa, various other cultural groups. But we also get a lot of visitors that come here. So up in the top left-hand, you'll see there we had the Archbishop of the Anglican Church in Aotearoa in Polynesia. He had an international group of people that he brought to the Pacific. So these are people from America, Europe, and Africa. He took them to 3 places within the Pacific. One was Fiji, the other one was, this is over a 2-week period, the other one was Matatini, and the other one was to here to Ahuriri, where they stayed for about 4 or 5 days, the Aotearangi, and down to the Waka. He could have gone anywhere in the Pacific, basically, but because we have a community relationship with the Archbishop and have taken their Aotearoa bishops through the Aotearangi and on to the Waka as well. He wanted to be able to show his international guests what we had to kōrero about. Also, other people coming to the region. Down in the bottom left, we had a group of 50-odd kids from Tahiti come. They were at a different kaupapa up in Tairāwhiti, but brought 4 minibus van loads down here to stay for a night, just to be able to see the Aotearangi and the Waka. On top of that, probably the majority of people that actually come to the Aotea and come past the Waka is not people that come in groups to be with us. It's the general public. It's a place that they want to go to, a place that they want to be. And in terms of education, so because we are a charitable trust, any money that we do make, we put back into to the kaupapa, put back into our trust. So the majority of that money either goes to community events or subsidising education costs. So here's just an example of some of the resources that we've been able to get through funding, and because of that, we're able to offer much cheaper rates to be able to do educational programs.
Ka pai. So I guess in regards to the kaupapa, just wanting to touch on a few key points in regards to your guys' strategic priorities. Firstly, just want to acknowledge the team that we've been working with, the project team. George, Alex, Brian, Robin, for the authentic partnership and approach that we've taken to developing the Waka Hub. Working alongside your team, of course, Manu Panuka o te iwi, and getting us to the stage at the moment. So in regards to authentic partnerships, just want to acknowledge your team's mahi in that space. In regards to spaces and places for all, what's being proposed in the current design of the waka is that it will be open for all. There'll be educational signs, the waka will be visible from the shore, there'll be deck spaces and stuff that will be open to the public. For it being a great visitor destination, Piripi's already highlighted visitors that have come specifically to Napier to want to share and enjoy the experience of not only the waka but Atiarangi as well. And in regards to the sustainability of the kaupapa, the more visitors that we can bring into the region that want to visit the Waka Hub, tourism and the such will support its viability.
And just to give an idea, there's probably about 15 waka haurua like we have here in the world. And so having that and the Atiarangi with a Waka Hub right next to here would be pretty much a first in the world. So in terms of visitors, we're able to look after various crews that might come, waka crew, but it's also, as TK said, visitors in terms of tourism, visitors in terms of education with schools as well. So we really think on that Pandora Road that this will become, a landmark for Aotearoa and specifically for Ahuriri, for Napier, having that waka there with the monuments, with the waka whare, the Waka Hub. We think it could be quite spectacular. Kia ora. And so this is just a view of what we're looking at in the future. You'll see there the whare symbolises an upturned waka, and the funny sort of like zigzag shape that you see in the roof there. George will talk to shortly, but what that forms is what's called a Haumi Kokomo join. It's specific to Aotearoa. And it forms our cultural narrative for the whole project. It's really the symbolisation of two bits of wood being joined together to form the waka hull, which makes it stronger, also makes it longer. And we like to think that that forms the cultural narrative of what we're trying to do within this kaupapa. We're trying to join people. We're joining ourselves with the sailing club, ourselves with our other whanaunga from Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, and ourselves with visitors to this destination. Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. Thank you very much. And yes, certainly a very special taonga with the waka that we have here. We're very blessed to have it and appreciate you taking the time today to come and explain your kaupapa around the trust and what you do and how important that is in terms of what we're looking to do with the Waka Hub. So I will open just quickly if there's any questions, bearing in mind that we do have council officers presenting the first agenda item. So any questions for council officers, keep to that agenda item. So, no? Excellent. Thank you very much, TK and Piripi. Moving through the agenda, there are no announcements by myself. Are there any minor matters not on the agenda? Any announcements by management? Okay, confirmation of the minutes from the ordinary meeting of council held on Thursday, the 20th of February, and the extraordinary meeting of council held on Wednesday, the 26th of February. If I could have a mover and seconder. Thank you, Councillor Bogan, Councillor Crystal. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Right, we will move into our agenda items. And first up, we do have the Waka Hub concept design with George and team, Brian. So I'll invite you up to present the report to us, please.
Kia ora koutou. We're here this morning, Brian and myself, to present the concept design, talk through the concept design with you. The purpose of today's report is to seek approval from Council for the design concept of the proposed Waka Hub and endorsement to proceed and to develop design. As TK and Piripi have mentioned, the Waka Hub is proposed in Ahuriri, adjacent to the Napier Sailing Club, and actually stems from the history behind it is that it was first identified in the Ahuriri Estuary and Coastal Edge Master Plan and was further evolved in the Inner Harbour Plan. And from that, back in 2022, a design brief was established in collaboration with Mana Whenua and Aotearangi Trust, looking at what that Waka Hub could potentially entail. The Waka Hub itself is envisaged as an international destination for waka voyages from around the Pacific, and there's nowhere else like it in the world, as you have heard just earlier. It's also likely to become a real point of interest to the wider visitors of Ahuriri and Napier. So I'd like to take the paper as read this morning, but I would like to talk you through what the concept design entails. Off the back of these master plans, Council committed money to the LTP, 3.3 million, and allocated another 2.2 from the Better Off Fund to the project. Council has also made a substantial contribution in kind in the form of staff time at officer level, as well as Council also actively pursuing external funding avenues to support this kaupapa. The project itself is aligned very closely with a number of our own strategic priorities, as you've heard earlier with Piripi. These being specifically nurturing authentic relationships, a great visitor destination, places and spaces for all, and financially sustainable council. One of those, we've been very cautious to position the Waka Hub where it would complement existing amenities and facilities, and this benefits both the local waka events and festivals, but also allows sharing of resources and space with the Napier Sailing Club, establishing a unique destination which is not currently well renowned for in the harbour itself as the Waka Hub. So the process that we've undertaken is one of only 2 projects in recent years for co-design. It's really the first, a flagship for it, Te Aka and the Waka Hub being our first true co-design projects. This has led the direction of the concept design, which is centred around a series of iterative wānanga hosted by the Napier Sailing Club and also Ātirangi Trust at the Mana Ahuriri Trust boardroom. So to ensure that the design of the Waka Hub truly and authentically represents this kaupapa of our mana whenua partners, a mana whenua design lead was also brought on board to help translate Ātirangi Trust's cultural narrative and ideas into physical form. So they have worked with the architect throughout this design process with the resulting design that you'll see shortly. Also, attending those 4 wānanga through the spatial design and concept design process were the Napier Sailing Club, Napier City Council representatives nominated by Her Worship the Mayor, Ngāma Nukunuku o Te Iwi representatives, Mana Whenua Advisory Group representatives and internal stakeholders. As Piripi and TK alluded to, there is a very strong cultural conceptual foundation for the proposed Waka Hub, and that is centred around Te Haumi, the Haumi join. The Haumi is a joining technique used in waka construction and allows for the extension and reinforcement of canoes. There are various forms of join, but this one reflected in the design is specific to Aotearoa and it represents the stitching and binding, creating vessels unique to Aotearoa. The co-design approach for the project embodies that spirit of connection also and is represented in the integration of the building into the surrounding landscape. The site is designed so it connects with existing recreational spaces on the water's edge, while also fostering ecological vitality along the coastal edge itself. This joining of natural and built elements will create seamless transition between the two, blurring the lines between architecture and the environment. The Haumi join unites the diverse threads of Wakahaurua kaupapa, integrating with the past, present and the future. And through the design, the building will not only stand alone as a functional space, but also as a vessel carrying the legacy of Māori innovation, bringing together communities and cultural histories in a shared journey toward the future. So the Waka Hub concept itself, this image shows you where it's located. So to the right of the screen is actually the Pandora Road Bridge. And the positioning of the Waka Hub is immediately north of the existing Napier Sailing Club. The site itself interfaces directly with the Napier Sailing Club. There is a proposed jetty and pontoon. There is also 2 buildings under one roof. So the whariwaka, which is where the educational space and a small kitchenette will be positioned, and then immediately adjacent to that, but under the same roof, is a storage and working room facility. The site has also been designed to allow for cultural function, so arrival and welcoming of manuhiri visitors to the site, both from the water and also from the land, and those are represented in the green and the blue in this diagram. The pink being the whariwaka, so the education space, and that is where Ātirangi Trust will undertake education and conversation around celestial navigation, and also around Te Ao Māori, which is the environmental aspect of preserving our environment. The red is more of the working, is primarily working space, so that relates to the working and storage room, and that sits behind to the south of the building. This concept plan shows the proposed layout in a little bit more close-up. So you can see that there are a number of path systems. There's actually a deck or a veranda type space which adjoins the education space, and that allows indoor and outdoor teaching and education. That space is open to the public and all year round. It immediately adjoins also another public space, which is the green grass area, and that's for either events, to facilitate events. It's also would be used by Napier Sailing Club in their events and festivals. There's the jetty and pontoon immediately to the north, and that can accommodate 2 waka haurua. This image gives you a little bit more of an understanding of the actual architectural building itself. So you'll see the large single form roof system with the homie join is going to be the architectural feature. However, there are 2 smaller whare or buildings underneath and then connected by that outdoor deck system. So there's a small kitchenette and wharepaku as part of this proposed waka hub as well. And there is a storage facility and working room at the back for maintenance of the waka haurua. Another opportunity that this kaupapa represents is in time, we hope to be able to really progress our ecological, the restoration and education of the inner harbour. And what this development represents is an opportunity to actually create artificial habitats through constructed reefs, which could be accommodated against the existing rock revetment. There's also the opportunity for bivalve clusters, so mussel ropes from the jetty and pontoon in the water itself, and also artificial rock pools. So in time, these things could be added to the waka hub. So what we're seeking today, sorry, I think I might have missed one. The project priorities are indicated in blue. So that's the jetty and pontoon, the education space, and the workroom and storage facility. These would need to be implemented in order for the waka hub to function well. The additional items or areas indicated in pink, black and gold are things that could be developed over time, and that's depending on how funding is sourced and made available. So as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of this paper is to seek your approval for the concept design of the proposed waka hub and also endorsement to proceed to the next phase of design, which is develop design, utilising the Better Off funding. I'm happy to take questions, and I have Brian here also if you have any other questions that he might be able to assist with.
Excellent. Thank you so much, George. And just to note that the recommendations have been endorsed by Ngā Manokanaka o Te Iwi, which is in the minutes from their last meeting that are a part of this agenda. So just to share that with you and open up for questions. Councillor Crystal.
Thank you through the chair. Thanks for that, George. One of the things you didn't talk about, but it's in the paper, but interested to see how this is going, is that the Atararangi Trust are exploring options of other funding, and which is something that we talked about, I know, and because we felt they had quite a much stronger case than, and we can't do that. So I know some of it relies on resource consent, it said, but some of the other ones how's it going?
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, there's, as you'll see attached to the paper, there's actually a letter of intent, and as part of that, they've listed the funding avenues that they're currently investigating. So that work is definitely underway. The concept, a lot of these applications rely on a final design, which we are partway through. So moving into developed design will assist with those applications also.
And just further, I guess some of this, we've got our set, the first things that we think are the most important, but could do some of the other things that we may not have enough funding for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we would be prioritising council's funding and the Better Off funding to those areas of blue. So the jetty, the pontoon, the education space, and the majority of the workroom storage room. And then the rest we could undertake in time as funding avenues become available.
Thank you.
Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, just through the chair. I know in the paper, and we've seen this before, sort of April last year, the Napier Sailing Club seemed like they're pretty much on board. Just wondering, have you run this design past them since? Cool. And what are they saying?
So through you, Your Worship, yes, the Napier Sailing Club have actually been involved in this process from the beginning. So they've actually hosted 3 of the 4 wānanga, and they have had a minimum of 2 and sometimes 4 members of their board attending those wānanga as well. So yes, we are working alongside them with this design.
Fantastic, thank you.
Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Your Honour. Just a question about, you did mention in the preamble about vandalism. We heard that that is an issue. My question is, what are the design features to prevent such vandalism?
Through you, Your Worship, we are actually proposing that there would be a gate down at the base of the pontoon, between where the pontoon meets the jetty. So there would be security, which would ensure that there wasn't the ability to get onto the pontoon itself.
And just further to that, what about CCTV?
I'm sure that's something that we could investigate at this stage. We haven't got into that level of detail.
Councillor McGrath and then Councillor Price.
It's through the chair or through the mayor even, for worship. There's $5.5 million allocated to this project, but I'm hearing we can't complete the project with that 5.5 million. Is that correct?
Through you, Your Worship, we can definitely complete the priority areas. The areas that may require additional funding are the areas outside of that. We hope we're working to that 5.5, but that 5.5 actually has covered design services and professional services as well. So the total build cost is less. It's 5.5 minus those professional services. The actual design estimate at the moment is around the 5.5, but we've had to take out professional services from that total budget. So the Better Off Fund is funding currently all the professional services, so engineering, architectural and landscape design, all of that side of things.
Yeah, I get that, and it's all part of the project, but
Yes,
we're now, I guess, I see it as a whole project,
yes.
and we can't complete that whole project with the 5.5 million. We're having to cut it back and then eventually go and do other bits and
Through
pieces.
you, Your Worship, we can complete the project, we can construct the Waka Hub, but the additional details, so we can complete it to a level that it would be functional. So, but that may be that we have things like permeable gravel pathways rather than sealed concrete pathways. So the level of investment would be managed with the budget that we have. So it may be that things like planting, extra planting may not be undertaken initially. Those are the sorts of things that we would be adding on, and the environmental enhancements and habitat creation, which have been identified as opportunities. Those things are not considered a priority, but they have been identified in the design as future opportunities for the site. Those sorts of things would not be undertaken with the 5.5. We would be looking at primary function facilities.
Yep. We don't have any obligation for a consent to complete any of those bits and pieces around the project?
No.
Councillor Price.
Just wanted to cover a point that we'd talked about. Entry to the hub, is that through the sailing club or is there other means of entry?
Through you, Your Worship, there will be an additional new entrance off Pandora Road, which bisects, it's at the lower, I'll just go back a slide or two. Actually, it's between, it's around the D. You'll see D at the bottom of the diagram there. The proposed entry is where that rectangle juts out and meets Pandora Road. So there would be a new managed access point into the Waka Hub, which could also be utilised by the Napier Sailing Club.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Bosner.
Thank you very much, George and the Atarangi team for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. Value engineering, at what stage of design does that occur? Is that concept, is that developed, detailed? Can you talk us through that?
Through you, Your Worship, we have a quantity surveyor on the team, and they've been involved right from the very beginning. They are constantly value engineering the design, so there has already been a process of value engineering being undertaken, and that will continue through all design phases.
Are you able to account for what savings were found in the first stages of value engineering?
I can. I haven't got that with me exact. Oh, yes, actually, I do. Sorry. To date, there have been $486,000 found through value engineering at concept design phase. Materiality we'll have more detail once we get into developed design, and that's where we'll be able to fine tune that too.
So what was that number, sorry?
486,000.
Close to 10% of the project cost.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
great.
Very good. Through you, Madam Chair, just my second question is just could you spend a minute talking us through what this next stage looks like? I understand that we have more discussions. It was great to see the statement of intent come through the paper from the Trust, and I understand there's a MOU that is part of this next stage.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. The next stages are, as Deputy Mayor says, we will be looking to establish a memorandum of understanding, and that'll be a tripartite agreement between Napier City Council, the Napier Sailing Club and Aotearangi Trust. We will also be looking at revising our governance structure because Council, as part of our EPMO, Council are actually looking at aligning all projects with a specific governance structure, and this will be done in conjunction with the development of a standardised approach as part of our project management framework. That piece of work has been undertaken as a separate work stream, but we will be integrating that as part of our next design phase. Next steps are also to draft the lease agreements, so that's the lease between Council and Aotearangi Trust or for the Waka Hub, and also Council and the Napier Sailing Club. And that will be heavily informed by the MOU. And then we'll also be looking at investigating, as Councillor Crystal has identified, future funding avenues as well.
Great, thank you.
Councillor McGrath and then Councillor Gregg.
The areas that we're not looking to do initially with this funding, have we costed what they may cost, I guess, into the future?
They have all been, they're all being considered, yes. So the quantity surveyor is running that through their whole process. So yes, everything has been costed as part of the project for the initial concept design.
Will we see those numbers at some stage for the bits that we're not looking to complete?
Yes, we can provide those.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Just a question further to Councillor Price's question about the new entry point from Pandora.
Yes.
Has there been any discussion with the transportation team about traffic calming? I mean, how fast do cars go down there?
Through you, Madam Mayor. We've got our transportation manager on as part of our project team, and they are working with us and our architectural team to work through this. But if there's anything additional, we would be seeking a traffic modelling to be undertaken.
Some great questions there, thank you. And any further? No, so we have the recommendation to approve the concept design and to endorse progressing to developed design. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Bogue. A seconder? Councillor Gregg. I'll invite you to speak to that, Councillor Bogue.
Thank you very much to the team and to the Trust for presenting this detailed and collaborative design concept to us. What we saw today is just a wonderful asset that's going to become a significant landmark and visible to people coming into the city, to those in the Ahuriri area. That's quite unique as a destination for visitors and for locals. It comes with a whakapapa, so an opportunity to share stories from history, of our connection with the sea and our connection with the rest of the Pacific. So it's going to bring visitors and the community and children to educate and inform them on our history. I'm really pleased that we are providing now a safe berth for Mataua Maui, which matches the mana of this special vessel. So that's a big plus. So thank you again. A lot of collaboration and thought has gone into this concept design, and I fully support that and the developed design.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, just to concur with Councillor Bogue's points, absolutely exciting project. I think we're all around the table just can't wait to see it. It's going to be amazing. And just on a personal point, thank you for including cycle parking.
Pleasure.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Price.
I'd just like to speak in favour of the motion, and it was from the questioning and the answers by the officers, it does indicate that there's sufficient funding there to get this hub up and running and get the hub, the Waka, into some sort of protection area, which is of concern. So it's good that there is enough money there to get to that point. Thank you.
Thank you. We've had 3 speakers in support. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the motion? No? Okay, I will put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you so much, George and Brian. Great presentation, and yeah, really exciting project. Looking forward to it progressing.
Thank you.
And our next agenda item is the Draft Waste Management and Minimisation Bylaw 2025 and Statement of Proposal adopting for consultation. And I welcome Stephanie and Sarah to present the paper to us. Welcome to both of you.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having Sarah and myself here today to talk to you about our Waste Management and Minimisation Bylaw 2025. Accompanied by the statement of proposal. We will take the report as read, but we would just like to do a few talking points to go through what is in the report today. Our purpose here today is to seek the approval of Council to please adopt the Draft Waste Management and Minimisation Bylaw and the statement of proposal for public consultation. The current one, the Solid Waste Bylaw 2012, expired and was revoked on the 1st of July 2024. So we've got a new one out at the moment, or going out hopefully for public consultation. Some of the key areas we wish to address in this new draft bylaw is to drive waste minimisation and create a more circular economy. We wish to have better regulation around safe and effective waste services and management, and enable adaptive action within the waste system. During our workshop a couple of weeks ago, we addressed, or there were a few questions around illegal dumping, and I've included information in the report where Council already addresses these issues around illegal dumping. So just based on the work that we've done to date, we wish to, or we recommend that we take a light regulatory approach with this bylaw, and we seek that Council adopts the SOP and this draft bylaw so we can go out for public consultation.
Great.
Any questions?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Open up for any questions. Councillor Bogue.
Yes, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I was listening on the radio yesterday, someone talking about the food scraps pick up as part of their rubbish in Auckland, and how it had that project had reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 40% in terms of the greenhouse gases generated through rubbish. It is quite a large factor, is it not? Did we consider picking up food scraps as part of our rubbish collection?
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that question, Councillor Vogue. We are in the process of the draft waste management and minimisation plan. Within that, we've got actions that will go out. We will be going out for consultation on this to address the issues with organic waste in landfill. We know that it takes up a good, there's, with the waste assessment that we had discussed last year, and the research that we've done, there's 14% recyclables that go straight into landfill, and 25% goes into, as organic matter that could have been composted. So it's nearly 40% of what goes into landfill that could have been diverted and avoided. So yes, in our waste management and minimisation plan, which is slightly different to the bylaw. The bylaw is going to be as an implementation tool to support our WMMP. We will be seeking feedback from the community on what it looks like diverting organic matter from landfill. It might not be a food scraps collection directly, but we will be seeking that feedback from the public.
Councillor Gregg, then Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. A question about fly tipping. Under the light regulatory approach, would council still have the option to apply stricter enforcement in regards to fly tipping?
So with this bylaw, we are not addressing fly tipping because we've got 6 other bylaws already within council that can address and enforce regulation in that matter, with that matter.
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Stephanie and team. Are you able to walk me through the consultation plan? In particular, I'm looking for your approach to how you're managing key stakeholders to the plan and the industry professionals.
Yes, we do. Within the report, there was an attachment on our engagement plan, but happy to go through that. Our key stakeholders have been all the people that we have been talking to throughout our pre-engagement process too. We've got some businesses that we have engaged with, so this will be going through them too. We will be doing one live open house session too, and the rest will be online submission forms, etc. Does that answer?
Yeah, and the interaction with the draft WMMP as well, how will that be managed?
We are doing that with the WMMP, and just for saving time and everything else, we will just be doing it both together. So there will be 2 submission forms. One will be for the WMMP, and the other one will be for the bylaw. And we will have a booth at the open house to address any of those matters. There will be an online survey, so we can go through the feedback as it comes in.
Yeah, thank you. So it feels like obviously we'll be talking to the same group of people across 2 sets of consultations. So I just wanted to get some confidence that you feel like you're across how to direct people, I guess, into a way they can meaningfully engage without being in the wrong process.
Yes,
Yeah.
and both of the branding will also be quite different. So one would be in our joint waste branding because that's a joint effort with HDC, and the other one would be more our normal Napier City Council branding. So there's definitely like a look and feel for it to be completely different, and us as officers being across both, even though it goes hand in hand with each other and it's alongside each other, there's a clear difference that we will be able to address any feedback from either a bylaw perspective or from the plan itself.
Thank you for that confidence. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Through your engagement with businesses, did you manage to engage with fast food businesses? I'm just thinking of the amount of street litter and the disproportionate sort of contribution that they make to litter in Napier.
Yes, we did invite them to our pre-engagement sessions last year. This was purely for the waste management and minimisation plan. We were still in the process of drafting and figuring out what this bylaw should look like, but we invited them. A lot of people are very busy, but we have various different events, like we've got the Nick Turner one, so we're keeping on top of communicating with our businesses. However, the uptake was very low from these people, and it's often, it's higher up than them, bigger chains to speak to. Yeah.
There's no
further questions or general discussion, the recommendation is to adopt the statement of proposal and draft waste management and minimisation bylaw for public consultation. Could I ask for a mover? Thank you, Councillor Brown, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Simpson. I invite you to speak to that, Councillor Brown.
Through you, Madam Mayor, seems I'm one of the few that want to speak about rubbish. Think rubbish. Just to say this is excellent work. I've got a bit of an insight into how much work goes on and behind these two plans sitting concurrently, and an insight into how much the waste management team across both councils has been building the relationships with community. So it's exciting to see those relationships developing, and hopefully that we get some really good engagement through this, which speaks to Councillor Brosnan's points. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I think it's important that we don't miss opportunities to improve our environment and to improve our economic situation. So I think this paper helps us along that progress. But I think it's really important that we engage the community, because they are the ones that have to own and champion aspects of this activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No? So I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Fabulous. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very
Sarah.
much.
Great presentation. And thank you for all your mahi. I know that there's been a lot going into this. So, excellent. Okie dokie, moving on to the adoption of the annual plan 25-26 consultation document. We have Danica and Steph. Welcome.
Hello. So this report presents the annual plan 25-26 consultation document and supporting information for adoption by council. So the document has been developed based off the underlying information previously adopted, and this information was also reviewed and endorsed by the Audit and Risk Committee earlier this month. Another point to note is the document has undergone a legal review just to ensure compliance with council's obligations as per the LGA. Following on from the adoption of the consultation document, community consultation is scheduled from the 31st of March, which is this Monday, through to the 30th of April. And throughout that period, the community will have time to come to some in-person events, complete formal submission, and also indicate if they would like to speak at hearings. Hearings will run from the 26th of May, and there may be a couple of days depending on how many bookings we get. The document that's attached, the consultation document that's attached to this report, is the Word version only. So the final designed document will be circulated with all of council prior to the end of the week. And just one final note that I'd like to make is that while I'm presenting the report today, the communications team has done a really great job of pulling this together. So just wanted to acknowledge all the work that they've done.
Thank you very much. And yes, I concur, everybody that has been involved right across the organisation in terms of pulling this consultation document together, and actually just the preparation of the draft annual plan. I'll speak on behalf, I'm sure, of all of elected members when I say we really appreciate the work that has been done to identify the savings that we asked you to find. We know it hasn't been easy, but to be able to go out to our community with that proposed reduced rates increase of 7.9%, we're just really appreciative of everything you have done to achieve that, and looking forward to our community engaging with us on this. So just an initial question from me, noting that the consultation period includes our Easter weekend and Anzac Day public holidays, and typically, legally we're required to consult for a period of 4 weeks. Have we actually acknowledged that we've got these public holidays in there and slightly extended the consultation?
Yep, so it's the full 4 business weeks. Also for an annual plan consultation, you don't legally have to use the 4 weeks, but council decided to, just to provide enough time for the community to get their views in, since it's quite a lot of views we're asking for on different topics.
Excellent.
But yes, that's included.
Thank you.
Open up for any other questions. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you very much both for all of the supporting information and all of the work that's gone into bringing this today. Given that this is the point at which we adopt it for community consultation, I wanted to give you an opportunity to address, I guess, all of the work that has gone into finding cost savings. It's something that is front of mind for our community at the moment, is the ability for us to, what is often referred to as cut our cloth. And I know that there has been a wide range of work that's been done in that space. So I just wonder if now would be a good opportunity for staff to make comment on where we started and where we're at today at this adoption point.
Sure, yeah. So we started out with the rate that was proposed through the 3-year plan, which was the 11.7, and then after some review of the budget process, as we usually do, the rate had increased slightly due to things that are mentioned in the consultation document, so inflation, electricity costs, things like that. And then from there, officers and ELT went through a process of, really just nailing down where we can reduce those costs. And we brought options to council as part of workshops to work through and provide direction on where we could make some changes. But yeah, did anyone else have anything to add to that?
Through your worship, I'll just add to that included in those savings targets or efficiencies that we identified was a number of operational efficiencies, which the CE along with senior management are working through currently to target for the annual plan. So that formed part of the process in us moving down from 11.7% to 7.9%.
Councillor Bogue.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Consulting on an annual plan is not compulsory. You know, I support it. I think it's a great idea. And there are some local territorial authorities which this year are not doing so. I don't think Hastings is. And I just wondered, I expect it's probably the facilities review. What was the tipping point? Why did we decide it was really important to go out and seek the community's feedback?
So just to meet our obligations as per the LGA, there are certain points where for an annual plan it is we're legally obligated to consult. So if there's any material differences from what was laid out for that year in the 3-year plan or the long-term plan, and we use the significance and engagement policy to assess as we're going through the development process the matters that might be of significance to the community, that might be significantly material compared to what was adopted through the 3-year plan. So all of the matters included in the consultation document where we're asking specific questions have been identified as significant through those two, for the policy and legislation.
Councillor Greig.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Just could I propose a minor change to the consultation document up for discussion, but these are my thoughts. Under the glossary section on page 138, that's at the very back, under council-controlled trading organisation, it says, an organisation controlled by a local council which trades for the purpose of making a profit. Could we add a short sentence to explain that the purpose of making a profit is to keep rates lower for ratepayers, because some of our community might not understand that whole concept of profit and why would a council want to make a profit. I've just had a few members of the community comment on that to me. They don't understand.
We do have a very small time frame to make some small changes to the consultation document, I think essentially today. So if I saw you take a note of that one, and perhaps Councillor Greig, if you had any other feedback that you wanted to provide, if you could provide that back before 2 p.m. today.
Well, that's all I want to say.
That's all you want?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. A little bit of an 11th hour question, but I understand that there's some legal advice from DIA around us not having to do preferred options always in a consultation.
Sorry, through the chair, that's a conversation regarding specifics of local water's done well. It doesn't relate to this process.
Thank you very
And also,
much.
just to clarify to Councillor Bogue's comment earlier, the reason Hastings are not consulting is because they haven't changed. The reasons Hastings are not consulting, I believe, is because they haven't changed their position from their LTP.
Okay, there's no further questions. Any general discussion? I won't read through the whole recommendation because it is quite long, but essentially we are adopting the consultation document and underlying document to go out to our community. And that will start on the 31st of March, as Danica has already said. So I'm happy to move the recommendations from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan. And again, just acknowledging all the work that has gone into getting us this far. We know there's still a lot of work to be done, and hopefully we do get a really high volume of submissions, which does create more work, but again, it means that our community is engaging with us, and that's what we really want. So I'm looking forward to moving into this next phase of our 25-26 annual plan. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Mayor Wise. Just briefly, in support of what you have said, I know councillors and staff have sort of intimately looked through all of the background and supporting information to get to a point now. It was really good to see, with that fiscal responsibility lens that we applied across all of the lines to get our proposed rates rise down, acknowledging there are a lot of those pressures outside of our control as well. So I look forward to the community's views on those. And as always, I think we have done the best we can to find a balance between city development, fiscal responsibility, and the wide-ranging priorities our community has for us to deliver on. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Brown.
Kia ora. There you, Madam Mayor. Just to add that one of the pieces of feedback we get when we're going out for these consultations is what's the point of submitting? Do we as councillors listen anyway? And I think just to reassure our public, there's some difference of opinions around some of our options that we're putting out as our preferred option around the table, and that we are very keen to hear what the public say and that we will listen. So thank you.
Thank you. And was that speaking in support?
In support,
Thank
yes.
you. So we've had 3 consecutive speaking in support. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the motion? There being none, I will put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Excellent. I am going to call a short adjournment. I need to plug my computer in and just give everyone a quick 5-minute break. So if we could please all be back at 11 a.m. on the dot to carry on. Welcome back, and we are on to our fourth agenda item, which is Chairperson's Report, Napier City Council membership withdrawal from the Climate Action Joint Committee. I will take the report as read, but just as this is my report, just make a couple of very brief comments. So I do want to affirm Council's commitment to climate change action. Our priority is our local community, as has been demonstrated by the work we have already done in this space. And I would say that we are leading in this space across the region. As was discussed in our previous agenda item, we have very limited resources. We've heard from our community loud and clear that they want us to find savings, and that led to a deep dive into the financials. We have discussed withdrawal from this committee with our staff, and we have confidence our internal work program and action plan needs to be the focus for 2025-26. Staff will continue to collaborate on regional climate action initiatives within existing delegations and budgets. So those relationships will continue, and all of that work will be reported back to Council on a quarterly basis. So that's just a few comments from me, and I will open up for questions and discussion. Councillor Bogue.
Could you please tell us who's on this committee, exactly who else is on this joint committee?
The whole committee makeup, or our representatives?
No, on the whole committee makeup.
Okay,
please.
I might pass to Councillor Brown as a committee representative to, let you know who those other representatives are.
Kia ora. Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So the committee is made up of all 5 partner councils. So the initial direction was that it was to be mayors and 1 other delegate, plus an alternate. On our committee, we have Deputy Mayor Brosnan and myself, and an alternate. There is also the representation from all of our PSGEs. So it's quite a large committee. There's approximately 20 people on the committee.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, correction. All the PSGEs and representation from the Māori, from the HBRC Regional Planning Committee. Thank you.
Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, someone may not be able to answer this here or could be taken offline, but just wondering how much money goes into resourcing this committee and who pays?
So there is mention in the paper of the direct contribution that goes towards the committee, which for 25-26 is $69,400.
So every council pays $69,000?
I believe it will be proportionate. I don't think it would be equal across all councils. Councillor Brown, can you add to that?
Yes, I'm just trying to bring it up on my page. So there is a table in our agenda that covers off the funding. So the way the funding was put forward was it was recognised that all of the councils have shared work that needs to happen. Primarily that's within a regional risk assessment, but also we all have to do our own internal risk assessment. So the money, so that work was delegated essentially to the committee to carry out. The administration costs of the committee are, hang on, I've just pulled it up. It's on page 50 of our agenda. The administration costs of our entire committee are $20,000 for a financial year, which our share of that is 25%. So the cost to Napier of administrating the committee is $5,000 per year.
But then there is the costs associated with our contribution towards any work undertaken, and if there's any expenditure associated with that, which is what the $69,400 relates to. And then in addition to that, we do have a dedicated 0.4 of an FTE in staff costs, but that is being retained in the budget to enable us to continue with that collaboration at officer level on the regional climate action initiatives. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Just two quick, very quick questions. Can I ask what position Councillor Brown currently holds on the Climate Action Joint Committee?
Deputy Chair.
Okay, and was Councillor Brown consulted in the writing of this paper to Council currently on the table?
Councillor Brown was communicated with from early February in terms of the intention to write this paper. So, and there's been a number of conversations over that time.
Clarification.
Brown.
Just that I was told of the intention to, on the paper, but didn't have any input or any visibility of the report until full council saw it and it was made public.
Yes, through you,
Councillor
Madam
Bogue.
Mayor. Have the other members of this committee been, has this been discussed with them at all? Are they aware that this is what we're intending to do, and has there been any reaction to that?
Outside of Napier City Council, I have had a conversation with the chair of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council as my counterpart. I did not feel it was my role to have conversations with the other members of the committee. They're not people that report to me in any way. So it was my intention was to ensure that the Hawke's Bay Regional Council chair was well aware, and again, she was notified in early February, and then it is her responsibility to share that with anyone else on that committee that she felt needed to be involved.
Just following up, was the chair of that committee, or was the Hawke's Bay Regional Council given some suggestions as to what might have made our membership more viable for us, or is it just boiled down to the money?
The primary reason is around the cost savings and the fact that our internal work program and action plan is well developed, and we know what we need to do to move forward to prioritise our local community. At the time that I discussed this with the chair of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, she advised that she did not have any significant concerns with us withdrawing from the committee. The body of work that was underway was drawing to conclusion later this year anyway, without any firm future work program. So I did not sense from her that there was any issue with us withdrawing. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Mayor Wise. Can I just ask a question of clarification? It was mentioned in the discussion earlier by Councillor Brown that Council is required to complete a regional risk assessment or a risk assessment. Are you able to give me a source for that? Where are we required to complete that work?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if we're going to have the exact names of the official documents, but you'll remember at the regional collaboration day we had last Friday, the MFE presenter spoke about the importance of regional risk assessment for good governance of of councils in our planning, and that it was coming through. I'd have to refer to staff as in national planning statements or in some form of guidance. I'd need to refer to staff for that.
Yeah, so just point of order, clarifying, I think for the record, I would like that there is no legal requirement to complete a risk assessment or a regional risk assessment. The Local Government Act requires council must assess risks when completing its long-term plan. The National Adaptation and pending RMA replacement laws will increase expectations of risk assessment, but those are not yet clear, nor the Civil Defence Emergency Management Act requires council to assess and manage natural hazard risk, not climate risk. So I'd just like the record corrected that we are not required to complete this piece of work.
Okay, will be noted in the minutes. Opening up for any further questions. Councillor Taylor.
Just going back a little bit to Councillor Bogue's question. So the withdrawal from this committee is purely based on savings?
That is the primary driver. It is not the only driver. I've also had committee members from Napier City Council come to me just expressing concerns about the committee. I have had 2 resignations tendered. It's been a difficult committee to get commitment from those who have been involved. So first and foremost savings, but secondly just some concerns about the committee itself.
And a supplementary question. So the savings, do I take it that these savings are, I think in the report, going into a pool? And this pool, is that the intention
to be able to use that pool for a commitment that we have made to Hawke's Bay Tourism?
There's been no specific tagging for this. It has gone into that overall savings target that we've set for council officers. Councillor Brown.
I'm trying to work out which direction to head in. While we're on savings, I suppose, the risk assessment work that was expected to continue through this committee, how would we continue to fund that work into the future if we are getting rid of our budget and we don't have existing budgets within NCC?
I have had assurance from staff that within our internal budgets, we have the ability to carry on with any work that would be required.
But if we've outsourced this work and we're getting it funded regionally and we don't have it in our budgets internally, surely that number has to be added to our internal budgets at minimum.
As I said, I've been assured by staff that any work that we are required to do sits within existing budgets.
I have a procedural question. How come this discussion hasn't gone through our normal procedure of giving feedback to a joint committee?
I don't think we have a normal procedure of giving feedback to a joint committee, but it might be.
Well, normally I would expect that we would have a briefing from the staff of the committee, and we would, and probably the chair of the committee would come and speak to us if we had any concerns, and then if the council had concerns, that it would feed it through the committee representatives, and then the committee they would bring it up as a performance issue for the committee.
This has been discussed by myself with both of the committee representatives, being yourself and Deputy Mayor Brosnan. And as I noted earlier, I have had a conversation with the chair of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, who is the appropriate person for me to be talking to. Mm-hmm. I have also had a conversation with the other mayors in the region so that they understood what our position was. Mm-hmm. So I believe I have done what I'm required to do in my role. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe that there is a formal procedure with regards to withdrawing from a joint committee as you have outlined.
I think supplementary, I think my concern's not so much around your actions, but around how prepared the council are to answer questions and to make an assessment about the committee's value. So if I may, I'd like to table some clarification, because I understand that risk management in this space can be quite confusing, and we have different understandings around the table and within our community of where this work sits. So I flicked this out to everybody last night. It has a bit of an explainer about where the roles currently sit with Napier City Council versus what is currently the work of the Climate Action Joint Committee, and where there is proposed potential value should this council want us to continue working.
Can I ask a procedural question, Mayor Wise? It would be unusual for a member to table information and discussion. Is there a motion that is being proposed and this is being tabled as part of debate?
Is there a motion being proposed?
I can propose a motion. I propose that Napier City Council remains committed to the Climate Action Joint Committee, with any concerns around the committee's effectiveness passed on to the council's representatives, and then following the release of the Climate Action Risk Assessment, which is the committee's next piece of work, the committee can then hold a discussion on whether it is best placed to continue delivering value, or if this marks a natural endpoint for its work. And if the Napier City Council representatives on the committee feel that this work is no longer aligned with their focus or priorities, consideration be given to appointing councillors who do see value in the kaupapa and are committed to progressing the work program.
Can you please just articulate exactly what the motion is that you're putting forward?
That we stick with the committee and we look at reappointing the members on the committee if the people on it no longer wish to be a part of the committee. Because I know that there's people around the room who have the skills and competence and the desire to be on the committee.
May I ask a question of clarification of the resolution? Is your resolution essentially to lay this paper on the table and then, if that is agreed, lay out a new substantive motion on the paper? So you have a procedural motion to lay the paper on the table?
If that is how if I can't just propose a different motion, then sure.
If we could potentially have it on screen.
Procedural. I think the request was that this paper be tabled for this discussion, full stop, basically. So I see that's a pathway. Then we go to the motion that's on the document. If it does not succeed, then we look at a further motion to cover that.
So you are not wishing to propose an amended motion. You would prefer that we go with the substantive motion, which we vote on, and then if it's not successfully passed, then you will present a amended motion.
My intention of laying this on, not laying it on the table, putting it on the table, is that it provides an opportunity for the council to seek clarification on where the roles of Napier City Council versus the Climate Action Joint Committee are. So it gives more clarity if there's any confusion in the room. So just basically happy to ask any questions.
Thank you. And that was circulated last night to councillors, so they've had an opportunity to read that. And from a procedural perspective, if you are not intending to put an amended motion forward, then we can't actually table that document formally as part of the meeting procedures. But noting, as I said, that councillors have received that last night and had an opportunity to absorb and ask you any questions offline, should they have had any.
Brilliant.
So if there is no amended motion, we will return to the substantive motion. Do we have any further questions or discussion? Councillor Crown.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I think the paper identifies, in your opening comments as well, the key risk of the perception that climate action is not a priority for Napier City Council, and that's certainly it's certainly a risk and something that is of concern. I note that we have the quarterly monitoring and reporting against our own plan that we have in place, and that will come through committee structure. I'm wondering how we can perhaps bolster and give some mana to those regional conversations, because my understanding is we still want to be a part of the regional conversation, that this is a topic and a kaupapa that's very important to us. So what other forums do we have available to us to provide, I suppose, that level of governance conversation to occur?
Good question, Councillor Crown, and certainly the mayors and chief executive meet on a monthly basis for our mayoral and CE forum, and that is absolutely something where we discuss on a regular basis these regional initiatives around climate action and a range of issues. So that is certainly something that could be utilised.
Supplementary, and this is just, sorry, thinking on the fly, I think based on something Deputy Mayor Brosnan just read out before. The CEDAM.
Yes, there's also, yeah.
Yeah, so how does that interface, or how could it potentially interface with this kaupapa?
It has a very natural alignment with this kaupapa. So we do have a CEDAM Joint Governance Committee who meets on a, I want to say, quarterly basis, although in the transformation strategy, one of the recommendations is that we meet more frequently, and absolutely climate change is one of the elements of what we get reported on and where we discuss regional actions and initiatives. So there's two pathways that we can ensure that these regional conversations at the governance board are still front and centre. I've just had clarification from our governance officer that she believes Councillor Brown can table the document, so you're welcome to do that, bearing in mind that we have all seen it too. So. But thank you for that, Carolyn. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. You may have just partially answered one of my questions. Now, I'm looking in the content of the report under social and policy. It says Napier remains, NCC remains committed to climate resilience, but will need to strengthen alternative collaboration mechanisms with other regional stakeholders. I'm looking at the numerics in this report, and it says we're going to save somewhere around about 70,000 and a 0.4 of an FTE. And my question is, can we strengthen alternative collaboration mechanisms within those cost savings, or is this a mechanism? Is the existing mechanism a more economical way of achieving those collaborations around this climate change issue?
Just to clarify there, Councillor Simpson, the 0.4 of an FTE budget is retained, and at council officer level we will still be involved in the technical advisory group and ensuring that there is collaboration at council officer level. This is simply us withdrawing at governance level at this point in time so that we can focus on our own local action plan. And this is not to say that we would not rejoin the committee at some stage in the future if we felt that that was of benefit to us.
If I could ask a supplementary question, under risk, operational risks, losing CAJC membership could limit access to shared resources and regional funding opportunities if the CAJC expands its work program. How affected will our ability to perform in this space be if we're not part of the regional committee?
I have discussed this with council officers, and there has been no commitments or firm decision made about what a future work program may look like within the next 12 months. As I said, we will still have council officer involvement, and my expectation would be in the quarterly reporting that we have back from them, if they felt that there was something happening within this committee, should the whole committee remain, I might point out, then they would bring that to our attention, and then we would always have the option to re-engage if we felt that it was going to be to our benefit to do that.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Just a clarification on that. There is a forward work program. We have 4 different work streams, and it's programmed out for the next 3 years.
Yeah. And again, just to clarify, what I'm saying is I don't think there's been any formal contractual arrangements entered into or any really firm under those 4 PO. I don't believe that there's anything tangible that we, at this point in time, would have concerns about not being part of. And again, I'm relaying the information that I've received from council officers in the preparation of this paper. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Yeah, Mayor Wise, I'm just conscious that it feels like we're asking you a lot of questions, which I understand as the author of the report. I do have quite a bit to say, but I think I would like to say it in debate. So if you were happy to take a MUA for the Chair's recommendation, I would be very happy to make comment on a lot of the things that have been asked or alluded to in questions, and then perhaps we could angle that into debate if there was a seconder. I'd be happy to move with the small amendment of, I think, the conversation from Councillor Crown around elevating to mayors and chairs reporting noted as well.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to take yourself as a mover if we have a seconder. Councillor Mawson.
Got further questions.
It will be an additional point.
Yeah.
Wording around that.
No, direct climate action reporting through to mayors and chairs. I'm not sure if you call it something more formal than that.
The mayoral forum.
Mayoral forum?
Yeah.
Just a note, Madam Mayor, I did have some more questions.
And we can have those as part of the debate.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a seconder, so I will pass to Deputy Mayor as the mover.
Thank you, Mayor Wise. This morning I do speak in support of withdrawing from the Climate Action Joint Committee, not because climate action is unimportant, but because Napier needs, in my view, a sharper, more effective, more locally focused approach to achieving real climate results. We need to get on with getting our house right. We need to lead our business from the front in the right direction with action. And we need to put our pride aside and say no when something isn't working. That is not to say we can't come back at some stage when it is. Not just for our staff time and our time, but for our ratepayers' dollar. It is evident that there is a pressing need for decisive, immediate climate action in our region. While discussions and planning are necessary, they must swiftly transition to tangible actions to address the immediate challenges posed by climate change. When Napier joined the Climate Action Joint Committee, it was with a vision of regional cooperation delivering meaningful climate action, meaningful climate advocacy, and meaningful climate action plans for adaptation and mitigation. 2+ years in, this vision, in my view, has not been realised. Instead, the committee has, in my view, been an ineffective structure with little to show to date for its existence. It is not my intention to be disparaging, so let me be clear, my view is not based on or about individuals or any imminent work. I want to acknowledge the hard work of staff, especially the most recent appointment to convene this work at HBRC, and the passion and commitment from our representative, Councillor Brown, in what is a complex and difficult space that I know she has passion for. I also acknowledge the outputs the committee have been working on to date have value. The imminent body of work that Councillor Brown refers to, the release of the Climate Risk Assessment tool and report, is good work. No one here is trying to discredit it. However, it is a long-coming technical report, arguably not requiring heavy governance oversight, certainly not 20+ people, and just one of many outputs that was promised by the committee in its PO-centric work plan. The report is regurgitation of all of our existing high quality, as the Mayor says, leading recent information, and it is not at all a gauge for the effectiveness of the committee structure. Overall, as it has so little relevance to our membership decision, our decision today will not in any way affect the development, the review, the release, the non-release, the use of the tool into the future. I reject the assumption that you are all ill or uninformed by not seeing it yet. That report has no bearing on our ongoing membership, so delaying today's decision will not change the closure of the committee's work in that space or our access to its benefits in the future, as that is through an annual licence fee. We do not actually even own the tool we have prepared. So there is no need today to tie our decision to something that has no bearing on those immediate priorities. As a committee member and the portfolio holder for climate change and the chair of Future Napier Committee that holds this in its purview, I believe now is absolutely the right time to make a decision, primarily as we are in the midst, as we had earlier in our meeting, of finalising our annual plans and our budgets. This is the third annual budget this committee has drawn from. It receives $100,000 worth of budget line, although each year it is not drawn down on all of that, nor is it proposed to for the next 3 years. I believe now is an appropriate time to review our membership ahead of our triennium blackout starting and our election times. Climate action is important and every dollar we spend is important. We have a responsibility to ensure our decisions are made with focus and value on efficiency for our community. I believe a withdrawal now is not a retreat from regional collaboration, but a strategic governance shift towards a more effective and autonomous climate governance structure. You do not need to be in a big structure to achieve big things. I believe a shift enables Napier to better address its unique climate challenges promptly with action, ensuring that the city's efforts are not hindered by inefficient structures like this committee, I believe, has been. After spending time on this committee, I cannot put my hand on my heart and say this is money well spent. It has been increasingly frustrating to be a part of. We saw the chair resign, many members around us resign, poor attendance. The committee meetings talked, in my view, in circles, off topic and to no conclusion, to a point where I have struggled to find or add value, often choosing not to spend time at the committee but elsewhere in the portfolio. I have also spent some time with our regulatory and infrastructure staff inquiring, pushing to find what has the value been, what is going to be the value in the committee's work, always coming up short every time. At the Regional Collaboration Day last week, the presentation of this committee was described by the chair as having 2 to 3 major pivots in direction over its time. Seeing these pivots firsthand, I experienced them as clear in direction of purpose. While some will argue today that the committee's main body of work has yet to be released, so we cannot accurately assess the value of membership, for me, this is just another pivot, but one of language. The climate risk assessment tool, now reframed as the committee's impending core achievement, is merely one of many deliverables promised in the original terms of reference. The reality is that pivot is because nothing else has been able to be delivered, and this tool is now being positioned as a priority, as a success, to mask that history of underachievement. And I know that the committee has directed that to be the case. I'm sure that work is good. I've seen it. I'm sure that work is good. However, it is not a reason to stay in a structure like this. It is not the hallmark of an effective governance structure. Media reports of this committee called it the Climate Action Insert Question Mark Committee and observed that it had seen more slumber than action, with following media remarks made that the committee managed to finally adopt a terms of reference which provided seats to folk who then do not show up, and suggested remaining in the Climate Slumber Joint Committee. Most recently, the comment was, "We're still clinging to hope that this group will accomplish something in our lifetime." A few months later, now I cannot imagine an independent assessment of progress would be any more favourable, nor, I'm sure, would the reporting be. Regarding this main body of work, I was interested in the risk assessment modelling IP, so I asked some questions about public value, which I'm sure, hopefully, you're all asking yourselves as well. Could someone legoima the climate risk tool? Could they see their property? Could they overlay risk? Could they inform decisions on their own? Does it have any new information in it? What I learnt is no, partly because we don't actually own the tool. We pay for access to it through a licence. So it is just us shipping our data into a space where it is collated and sold back to us. We are spending ratepayer money on a model that is not theirs. And yes, there is quality information in it, it's our information, but that value can be limited in my view. There is clear arguments for withdrawing, which I believe could be summarised under the topics of duplication, and that is not duplication of the work they are doing, but duplication of responsibilities. Output ownership, lack of measurable results, unsatisfactory performance, cost beyond impact, up-and-coming government reform that is going to change the space significantly, and the need for focused action. I am sure I don't need to go into detail of each of those. We are aware of the financial pressures on council across the country, but central government, both central government and this council table have tasked us with reviewing our expenses line by line, ensuring every dollar is spent well. This is about making sure that every dollar and every hour of staff time is spent on climate action is delivering real outcomes for our community. Napier is investing in climate action through our own emissions reduction plan, resilience projects, coastal hazards strategies, natural hazards chapters, the post-2020 floods and post-Cyclone Gabriel asset management plans and investments, and the list goes on in that attached matrix you have. So in conclusion, the Climate Action Joint Committee has provided valuable insights into the region's risks and emissions, but it is a slow pace in delivering solutions. highlights why Napier must take a lead on its own climate strategy, as you have attached. Napier has a responsibility to prioritise efficiency, effectiveness and real climate action. Our community expects us to make smart funding decisions, and this is one of many that we need to make. The Joint Committee has ultimately failed to deliver enough. It has pivoted, delayed and ultimately underperformed, in my view. Our city faces immediate decisions about where and how to build, how to protect infrastructure, how to adapt to changing climate. By focusing our resources on Napier-specific risks and solutions, we aren't stepping away from collaboration. We're stepping up. We're owning it. We're ensuring that our community is prepared, resilient, and leading the way in climate adaptation, as we have done with all of the information into the committee to date. Napier needs to focus on taking more decisive action on climate resilience and adaptation. We are currently constructing our first Green Star certified public building. We have completed the long overdue update to our district plan natural hazards chapter with all of the supporting climate risk analysis. We have resumed leadership on coastal hazards after the Joint Committee funding failed to materialise. We have partnered with the Regional Council and Mana Whenua to transform industrial zone land into one of the country's largest stormwater wetland treatment systems and kickstarting biodiversity corridors in our city. Over the past 5 years, we have prioritised underground infrastructure investment to address capacity challenges caused by increasing rainfall intensity events, expanded our storage capacity at our wastewater treatment plant, and implemented coastal protection measures. We are also embarking on major capital works and projects for water capacity and outfall security. These are real, tangible climate actions, initiatives that deliver measurable results for our community, but more needs to be done. And I have not seen any evidence remaining in this Joint Committee with their 20+ governors enhances or accelerates our efforts. Instead of waiting on a committee that has struggled to deliver meaningful outcomes, Napier should be taking ownership of its climate future.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I will just say that you were...
Am I at time? Am I at time?
You could conclude and wrap up.
I will conclude by just asking a couple of quick questions for you to ponder. Has the committee stuck to its work plan? Has it delivered outcomes under all of its focus areas? Is there a clear owner and value of their work streams? Could information requests give access to our community to that? Does Napier receive a demonstrable climate action benefit? Has the work committed delivered anything new for Napier? And has the committee got a forward work program that shows tangible benefits? Is this committee sustainable? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Mawson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Reserve.
Right, yeah, hold. Open up for any other speakers. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just a few points of clarification in there. There's a lot, and there was a couple of... so the committee has been going for 1 year and 10 months, not 2+ years. The $100,000 is actually our climate action budget for Napier City Council. Of that, 57,500 goes to the committee. So I suppose there's a question in there. In this proposal, are we looking to reduce our total climate action budget? So take away the money that we are doing on action and reduce it by over half.
At this point in time, the budget has gone into the savings pot, so there's been no decision about exactly what it will be utilised for.
So it wouldn't be transferred to other climate action?
That decision hasn't been made at this point in time.
Okay. I also have some other comments. I actually concur with the frustration that Annette Brosden has felt, and I think it's fair to say that frustration is felt within a number of the committee members, but I also think that it's fair to say of almost all of our regional collaborations. So our Coastal Hazards Committee, that has taken 8 to 10 years before that has got to a point where it's really starting to add value to our community. At our Regional Collaboration Day, Tanya Hotmans is the chair of the Regional Planning Committee, spoke about the frustrations and the circular conversations that happen in these big committees. But she also spoke to the value of these circular conversations when you are discussing something so large and complex and unwieldy as a climate, in this case, as a climate response, a regional response to climate change. The inference that the committee has been inefficient. When I started doing research for this paper, I would have agreed with the Deputy Mayor. It does feel like it's been inefficient. However, I went through our papers and did a bit of a history of where the committee started, what we discussed in our minutes, and I was actually surprisingly impressed with how far we have come on our work program. So Deputy Mayor Brosnan spoke to the tangible outputs of a committee. And I think she's referring to things that would be equivalent to boots on the ground and tangible projects like trees planted. But our terms of reference talk to us creating a regional emissions reduction plan and a regional risk assessment. That is the tangible outputs that our committee has been tasked with. Our regional risk assessment, as has been spoken at depth, is coming to our next committee meeting and is about to be delivered within 1 year and 10 months. And speaking to other regional councillors around the country, they are jealous at the speed that we have achieved. Most regions have taken over 3 years to achieve this body of work, which we prioritised just in August. So I'm incredibly impressed at the speed that our staff have been able to move at pace to deliver this work. I believe it's, yeah. As an example, the Waikato Regional Council, they commissioned and completed phase 1 of their regional risk assessment in September of 2022. That was the original scoping piece of the work. They would love to be in the position that we are now, with all of the data included into a model around and compiled in a point which is almost about to be useful. They have not been able to achieve that because they do not have the ability to get the information from the local TLAs where the information is held in an efficient way. So you could say that one of the values of this large cumbersome committee is that we have been able to facilitate collaboration and the input of data in a way that other regions haven't been able to. And would that have happened without the staff working together on a tag, etc.? The other main piece of work is our climate emissions reduction plan. And as everyone knows, this is incredibly politically challenging the globe over. Everybody wants to pick a villain and someone else who should be to blame for our shared climate emergency. And our committee in the very first meeting was no different to the community. We had a very heated debate, and it took a bit of conversations between the TAG and the chair at the time and I around how we navigate this incredibly political space. Where we landed was that we spread the risk, essentially. So we had some workshops, and we came up with 10 different priority areas and then prioritised them to 6. So the work plan going forward is that at the next meeting we expect to pick up that work and to show advocacy at a regional level within 6 different PO. The point of that is to enable committee members to work to what they're passionate about, knowing that what they're passionate about is getting some action, and that sort of takes the heat out of some of the politics around choosing one regionally significant project. That work has been put on hold partly because of the funding. We have only got a very small amount of funding to do this amount of work and small amount of funding to do, amount of staff time to drive the work. So the committee, given all of the political pressures we face as a post-cyclone region, decided that adaptation was 100% the focus, and we have spat that work out within basically 6 months, which is the fastest it has ever been done in New Zealand. I'll leave it there.
Oh, right, sorry. You've come to me. Thank you. Councillor Tareha. Oh, and just to clarify, so you're speaking against the motion?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Tareha.
Kia ora and thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to speak in support of the motion. Firstly, I want to acknowledge Councillor Brown's commitment to this kaupapa and to climate action. Councillor Brown's dedication to this issue is, I believe, is commendable. In addition to Deputy Mayor Brosnan's kōrero, I originally served as Napier City Council's alternate on the Climate Action Joint Committee. However, due to ongoing confusion regarding the committee's direction, as well as other concerns, I requested to step down and was successfully replaced. Unfortunately, the lack of clarity that led me to my decision remains unresolved. Given this continued uncertainty, I believe it is in Napier City Council's best interest to withdraw from the Climate Action Joint Committee and redirect our resources toward more clearly defined initiatives that align with our strategic priorities and deliver tangible outcomes for our community. I appreciate the thoughtful discussions that have taken place on this matter, and I fully support the motion for Napier City Council's removal from the Climate Action Joint Committee. Kia ora.
Thank you. Any further? Councillor Price.
I've just got a question, actually. If we chose to remove ourselves from this, obviously if we're heard, we can reconvene, or whatever you'd like to call it, and go back and resurrect our on the committee?
We could rejoin the committee at any time.
So what would you envisage would be the process to identify the need for that?
Because there will still be reporting coming through from council officers in terms of regional initiatives and collaboration, and also through the reporting that we're now going to send through to governors internally, and also at a regional level to mayors. I think it would be very apparent if there was benefits for us in rejoining.
Thank you.
Councillor Bogue.
I would like to speak against this motion. Look, I appreciate the concerns people have about the finances and what the committee's doing, and I heard your lengthy list of criticisms that you read out, Deputy Mayor, and the responses from the other member of the committee. But as a member of the community and as someone who cares about climate action, is Hawke's Bay, remember, we had the worst ever climate disaster 2 years ago, and doing whatever we can to prevent this happening ever again should be a top priority. And I see working together with our regional partners is one leg of the stool or whatever. So it just makes sense to me to work in partnership, where you look at the big picture rather than working in our little silos. As our officers said, walking away risks losing access to shared resources and regional funding opportunities. And it also weakens our own climate action plan, which has this as part of it, from what I read in the papers. So working as part of a collaborative team is good leadership, as opposed to working alone. It enables joint actions. It gives us a picture for the whole region. For example, I know we have actions in our own plans to reduce carbon emissions. One of them, if we're going to be, this is what we're going to be working in instead of as a region, were something that would reduce emissions would be selling our rentals. Well, sure, it'll reduce our emissions, but it's not going to reduce the emissions for the city as a whole. So what might help on our spreadsheet isn't going to help the city as a whole. The other point that I'm really disturbed about is withdrawing for this, from this committee is turning our back on mana whenua. There is absolutely nothing in any of our climate action plans that mentions involving or consulting with mana whenua. So walking away from this committee, however cumbersome and long-winded and convoluted, and it's a very complex issue, but that could be seen as a kick in the teeth to our mana whenua partners, because we are not replacing that with any other opportunity to get their input. And I think that's part of our treaty responsibilities, and we all know that mana whenua were affected very harshly by Cyclone Gabrielle. Reputational damage is another issue. It looks like climate action is not a priority. That's what it'll seem out there in the community. And it will damage our relationships and show lack of confidence in our regional partners. So what I'm saying is give it a chance. Try it for another year. You know, okay, so it's so many tens of thousands of dollars. But what's more important, you know, working together to tackle one of the most important issues that our region is looking at, or saving money. So by 2050, we have said that's our deadline for becoming carbon neutral. Well, we need to use every tool in our kitty to do that, and we will be much better working inside the tent with our regional partners in mana whenua than outside. So I do not support this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Bowe. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I, too, am speaking against the resolution. There's numerous global challenges that exist, and climate change and its impacts, including extreme weather events and the rising sea levels, are arguably the most pressing and interconnected issues facing humanity. There's a small window of opportunity to mitigate the worst effects of climate change, and closing that window for us, it just seems incredulous. To withdraw, as Councillor Bogus said, to withdraw from this committee, from Governor's point of view, is, to me, as you say, not putting the priority on climate change that needs to be placed on climate change. To me, I see it's the purpose of governors to make sure that things happen. So have people on the committee who believe in climate change and who will drive this, rather than saying it's going round in circles. It's the role of the chair, it's the role of the deputy chair, it's the role of the people sitting on that committee to make sure that things get done. To, you know, it's policy, and it's getting direction, and it's up to management to do it. So for me, the simple solution is, if the current members don't wish to be on there and Councillor Tariha had resigned, have people on there who believe in it and who will drive it. Don't take away the opportunity to collaborate with our neighbours. Sea inundation is not going to stop at our border. It's going to happen right across this province. And so, you know, let's not walk away from it. The savings are minuscule in relative to the cost. So I cannot support the resolution to withdraw, and I would suggest that we should look at just putting members on there, elected members who are prepared to attend over 50% of the meetings and actually participate and drive the work plan that needs to be done.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, I would also like to speak against the recommendation. I concur with Councillor Bogue. We need to work in partnership with the whole region. If this is supposedly about saving money, what money value can we actually put on climate change? Our community, especially our young people, are looking to us for true leadership when it comes to climate change. we need to have the moral courage to prioritise collaboration. And I think reputationally, I think we need to work together, or else people will accuse us of not caring about climate change.
Thank you. We've had 3 consecutive speakers against the motion, so I will open if there's any further to speak in support. Councillor McGrath.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I was going to stay relatively quiet on this one, but I thought I'd say something. Our community are looking for delivery, and I don't think they're seeing it with this setup. Our officers will still be in a position to get all the information and get stuff done, and it seems that everyone says, oh, it's only a little bit of money. Well, if that's the case for all of our collaborated partners, then they don't see value in it either, potentially, if it's a little bit of money. And you're struggling to get more money, then I don't think there's the buy-in from the region as well. And I'm just picking up on Councillor Taylor's comment about getting someone who's prepared to turn up to 50% of the meetings. I think if you believe in something, you turn up to 100% of the meetings.
Point of order. I wasn't saying that the person should only attend 50%. That is what has been happening in the past.
Any further speakers to the motion? You're going to use your right.
Sorry.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a little bit like my mate next to me. I didn't think I would
Other side, I think.
My mate's next to me. I didn't think I would say anything, but I do want to address a couple of things. In my mind, my position is formed by the fact that I have confidence that as an organisation, we are certainly not stepping away from our understanding of the importance of the kaupapa of climate change action. I have confidence through the plans that we have in place that mana whenua are included in consultation. They form huge co-design partnerships for us on a number of the projects, such as Ahuriri Regional Park, which is a huge stormwater project where we're looking to enhance things there. We include them, and we will continue to include them at those project and design levels. In my mind, this is about saying, does the form fit the function? And what I'm hearing is mixed views on that. Reflecting on the paper, seeing what plans we have in place to address things, my opinion is that the form does not fit the function. That, for want of a better description, whilst there is value in talking about things, we're actually placing more priority on getting things done rather than simply talking about it. I'm really comfortable with where we're at in our plans and our intentions to continue to dedicate resources internally, the work of our officers, and in fairness, what I see signalled from the Action Joint Committee, the work that at an officer level is fantastic. And there is no reason why regionally we can't continue to delegate to our officers to continue working with their peers regionally. It does not stop us from working regionally. For me, it is about saying this doesn't work in its current format for Napier, and that's why we all sit around this table. It's to represent the best interests of Napier people. Now, that might change in the future. We might decide that some kind of joint committee in this, but knowing that CEDAM also, there's overlap there and potential for us to have that regional governance come through to that level, that Mayors and Chair Forum is another option, and we have the monitoring coming through in our own committee structure. I'm far more comfortable with the recommendation, and I'm speaking in support of it.
Thank you, Councillor Crown. So moving to Councillor Mawson, for you reserved your right to speak.
Thank you. I'll make it brief. NCC has made a commitment to the climate. It's interwoven into everything the council does, and it's indeed in our current work program. I listened to my colleagues on climate, and that's definitely on the list. And if it was a priority of the committee, we wouldn't have had so many things on the list by the Deputy Mayor. Currently, though, through one of our residential surveys, climate wasn't actually the top of the list, the cost of living crisis is. So we're making this decision today, with regard to the money at least, and not having meetings for meetings' sakes by the sounds, we're listening to our community.
Thank you. And just moving to the Deputy Mayor for your right of reply, should you wish to make one.
Thank you very much, Mayor Wise. So I see no one disagreed that the structure has been inefficient as a governance structure, and everyone agrees that climate action.
I disagreed that the structure has been inefficient.
No, I didn't say anything
Okay.
about that.
Yeah, I apologise if I heard.
Frustrating, correct.
Okay, frustrating.
Inefficient, incorrect.
Okay. Thank you for the correction. No one disagreed that this structure has been frustrating. Everyone agreed that climate action is important and that our governance priority of climate change is also important. What is in disagreement is how we give it enough weighting and whether being part of this committee does that. Removing governance membership now, in my view, does not mean that there is a lack of action. We regionally collaborate on our coastal hazards, our future development plans. Waste minimalisation was one today. There is a range of things we regionally collaborate on. Sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. How Councillor Bogue sees this committee as having a meaningful impact on tackling things like the effects of Cyclone Gabriel, I am struggling with. I also disagree that our climate action plan is weakened by this decision. I believe it is strengthened and more focused. I reject that mana whenua are losing an opportunity for input as none of their roles are removed. And in fact, Council has significant input from our internal committee of mana whenua, as well as the up-and-coming elections with 2 Māori ward councillors joining our strategic planning, which includes climate action. Labelling of a committee climate action does not give the community confidence. Action gives the community confidence. So I was prepared to change my initial view. However, let's focus on what we can influence, what delivers value, and what makes a tangible difference for Napier now. And if the committee gets into a stage where it has a work program with all of the understanding of our changing regulatory landscape that will add value for Napier, then we can always rejoin. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our speakers. So I will put the motion. All those in support, please say aye or potentially raise your hands.
Aye.
Against? And the motion is passed. Thank you, everybody, it was great to see such active participation and everyone sharing their views. And it demonstrates that although we don't always agree with each other, we can get a result at the end of the day, and that's what we're here to do. So thank you very much. So we will now move on to agenda item number 5, another exciting one, election hoarding policy review. You're welcome, Anna.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Through the Mayor, the purpose of this report is to present the reviewed election hoarding policy. This policy outlines the rules and guidelines as outlined in the Operative District Plan and in the Local Electoral Act that apply to temporary electoral signage. It also defines the process to follow in the case of queries or complaints and the consequences of non-compliance when putting up hoardings. The regulatory team was consulted as part of the policy review, and changes have been made to streamline the complaints process under the policy, so the right team are contacted depending on the issue identified with a hoarding. Also, we've amended, there's been an update to the Local Electoral Act requirements on electoral advertising, and this has been updated in the policy to reflect the Act. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Anna, opening for any questions? I think it's all pretty clear in the paper, so thank you very much. Do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Mawson, thank you. Councillor Gregg, anything that you wish to say?
Just thank you for the work, Anna.
Anyone else wish to speak? No, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Next up, Anna remains with us for your amendment to the 2025 meeting schedule. Again, pretty procedural. We have 3 amendments, all new meetings, 2 council meetings around local waters done well, and then an additional audit and risk committee meeting, which was at the request of our independent chair. Happy to move, Councillor Mawson. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Crystal. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Next up, we have the information papers, minutes of joint committees, being the Hawke's Bay Regional Transport Committee, the Ahuriri Regional Park Joint Committee, and the Hawke's Bay Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee. So I will just invite the members of those committees to provide any updates or additional information on top of the minutes if they wish to. So that would be Councillor Price, Deputy Mayor Brosnan, and myself.
No comments.
No further comments. Happy just the minutes to. I'll open up if there are any questions. Was there a question, Councillor Bogue?
Just for Councillor Price on the transport. What's happening with the change to the speed limits, and how is it affecting us here in Napier?
Well, there's, on the Taupo Road, there's 3 areas that they're consulting on that are going to stay at 80, and the rest will be going through. But it's probably a nationwide thing that it's.
So just if I could add to my question, I've seen in the news that some of the speed limits around schools have been changed. Is that the case here in
My
Napier?
understanding is ours already meet what the new law
okay.
is. Yes.
So there's
And there's no other changes at all within our region?
No.
Thank you.
The ones I'm talking about are our region, really.
There were minimal changes that impacted us with the changes, thankfully, because again, it all comes at a cost when we then have to go out and change the signage around it again. So thankfully, we've had a minimal impact. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Sorry, I will briefly just update everyone on the Ahuriri Regional Park. Obviously, you have those minutes. So the next stage is that consultation is opening on April 16th through to the 7th of May with the draft master plan for community feedback. So there is a range of stakeholders that are engaged in as part of that process directly. There is also an open day down at Lagoon Farm, so just encourage councillors. We'll make sure that's on your calendar if it's not already, to come down and hear from the community about what they'd like delivered through that master plan. So, thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
Yes, the question directed to Councillor Price in relation to the item 9, where it states KiwiRail is still in discussions in relation to improving the Waitangi Bridge in response to flood impacts to Cyclone Gabriel. We all know that that has a possible flow-on effect to so those improvements, do we have any indication of what those improvements might be?
So you're talking about the rail bridge that was washed out?
Yeah, Waitangi Bridge. Yeah.
They've now made that a permanent rail bridge. It was temporary, so it's now a permanent rail bridge.
So they've completed the work to repair it to a standard of a permanent level. Would that be
deeper piles. It was always going to be. It was always said that it was going to be temporary measures, but at our last 2 meetings ago, they said that it was now permanent.
Just something, but no actual change or improvement to that bridge, so we could have a repeat.
So well, you can see the bridge when you drive past, it's the same. It's, the piles are deeper than what they were there. They've made it a lot stronger, but I suppose what you're getting at, they haven't made it so that things can flow under it any different to what there was prior to the cyclone.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown. Yeah, kia ora. A question for you about the CEDAM committee that came out of our workshop where they talked about the risk assessment that CEDAM committee is supposed to have governance oversight of, and I notice it's not in the minutes. Just wondering how the governance conversations around our CEDAM risk assessment are going, given that it's now 6 years out of date.
So there's been a significant lag in the CEDAM operational work program because they've got a large number of vacancies, and their focus has been in recent times very much obviously on Cyclone Gabrielle recovery and also on the development of the transformation strategy, which is seeing a complete overhaul of our whole national, regional and local CEDAM delivery system. So risk assessment has been lower on the scale, but that is certainly something that is now, as recruitment is actively underway and there has been some new appointments, that will certainly be in the work program coming up.
Yeah, and I suppose, does the committee see it as really foundational for us understanding where it prioritises the work going forward?
I can't speak on behalf of the whole committee, but all I can say is that certainly in terms of development of the future work program, that would be something that we see as a key part of that.
Okay.
Any further questions? No? Okay, can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Taylor, Councillor Price, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Next up, we have an information report being the Local Government New Zealand 4-monthly report. This is here for elected members, but equally as important for our wider community to take the time to read should they desire to see what our national membership body has been active doing. So is there any questions, although they would really be put to LGNZ? If you do have any questions, actually, can I suggest that you send those through to Anna and she can forward those on to LGNZ.
Could I just make a comment, Madam Mayor? I just think this is a great innovation. I think it's come in with the latest chair. It's really good for us and the public to see what Local Government New Zealand's doing, because they do represent us in the wider areas.
I agree, Councillor Bogue, definitely. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Bogue, Councillor Tariha. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And again for Anna, action points register is at the 12th of March. I take it you've all had an opportunity to review that. Are there any questions of staff on any of those action points?
Through the Mayor, sorry, just a wee update. Since this agenda was published, for action point 165 from the Ahuriri Regional Park Joint Committee, officers are collating a status report update covering the matters that were identified in the action point, and that will be delivered at the next Joint Committee workshop in May. And also for action point 169, Prosperous Napier officers were asked to provide building consent targets for the 3 months quarter to the 31st of December. The target for building consents to be processed and completed is within 20 working days of receiving them, as per the legislation. The lingering effects of the cyclone, high sick levels and staff vacancies have impacted those targets, but they're currently in the process of working through initiating a shared service agreement with another council to get ahead of those timeframes.
Thank you, Anna. That's really useful updates. Councillor Bogue.
Could I just mention on item 172, the future Napier update council as to where the future development strategy hearings will be live streamed? They were. I watched them for the last couple of days, and I think they're on YouTube, but that was very interesting.
Yes, the link was emailed out to you all. I think.
Yes, we got a link to Zoom in for the first day, but we couldn't Zoom in the next day, but it was all on YouTube that you could see it live.
Oh, great.
Hey, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just on number 168, it said that where the savings would be made for Hawke's Bay tourism were going to be coming back to us, and maybe I missed it before, but I haven't seen where we've taken that money from.
That'll be outlined in the annual plan documents, I believe.
I don't know if that level of detail would be in the annual plan documents, but we'll just take note, it's still on the action register, so we'll ensure that that information is shared.
Okay.
Could I just, a point of order there? Because my understanding of that debate, and I sought clarification at the time, was it was from unspent budget, not savings. So money that had not been spent in a financial year would become available for that fund. It's slightly different from where the savings would be made from. That means savings in the future, whereas the assurance I was given was that the funds was unspent budget.
Can we just add that clarification to the action point? I can't recall whether it was unspent budget or future savings, but we could look back on the minutes, but
Recall the exact wording.
no, but we can find out. Councillor Gregg.
Oh, yes, through you, Madam Mayor, just to ask, are we able to prioritise an action point? Because I think action point 168 is of interest to several of us. So could we make that as an urgent action point?
I'd just like to add that we were intending, as part of the annual plan deliberations and the report that we bring back to council, that we would include in there how we were going to fund the 150,000 for the Hawke's Bay tourism, the additional funding. That was how we were proposing to approach that.
To come. Thank you, Caroline. No further questions. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Crystal. Councillor Taraha. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Anna. Health and safety deep dive. And Andrew, you've been waiting very, very patiently to come and present to us. I would just request that, considering the time, that we try to keep it succinct, because we do still have a few items to get through, including PX. So I will pass across to you.
Cool. Thank you, Fru Chair. I'd like to pass to Louise to finish.
It's a bit of a, pass it around. I just wanted to give a little bit of context as to why you've got this report. This was a recommendation from the Audit and Risk Committee. So it was really to show Council the positive progress that's being made in this space. So this is the first of a number of deep dives that are going to be fed through the Audit and Risk Committee. The Chair felt that he was very happy with what he was seeing, acknowledging the work that we need to do. So I think the paper was less about the context and the specifics of this particular item, although we're happy to answer any questions that weren't already covered through the Audit and Risk Committee, but more about ensuring that this was part of an agenda that our community could see, because normally when we reference agenda items in the paper, you don't necessarily have this level of detail. So just to give you the context as why this has come through to Council. Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor Gregg.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Just two quick questions for Andrew. How often does Council have external health and safety audits, and who does the audit?
On our processes or contractors or?
Both?
So external audit, we had one in 2023 that did a gap analysis on areas of our business, which was something we've been currently working through. Part of that was addressing our strategic risks were out of appetite and needed work. Contractor external audits, we mainly do internal audits, but when the project manager asks for an external audit or there's some potential concerns, we will go to an external provider as a standalone person to review the contracts.
Thank you, Andrew. Any further questions? Councillor Simpson.
Just one, when you see orange lights and words like partially affected in these reports, I'm assuming it's partially affected because we're still going through the process of developing some of our processes.
Yep, through the chair, that's correct. So this was just to highlight the level of detail to the Audit and Risk Committee that we're undertaking. There's been quite a lot of investment and focus on health and safety, and it was about demonstrating the structure and progress.
Any further questions? Could I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Gregg. Councillor Simpson, any comments?
No.
No? Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much, Andrew. We're moving into the reports and recommendations from the committees. First up, the reports from the Audit and Risk Committee held on the 13th of March. As noted, there was the request for the health and safety deep dive to be brought through as a separate item. Are there any questions of any of the other reports?
All of them?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of, are we covering the Ngāma Nuku o Te Iwi?
No.
Oh,
Move
okay.
on to that next.
Well, just one question about the audit and risk. I'm someone who hasn't really attended very often, but I did watch it online, but I understood afterwards that even if I was watching online or if I had attended as a non-member, I would still be able to speak?
That is correct. Our independent chair would actually be thrilled if everybody turned up to the Audit and Risk Committee. And as I have encouraged on a number of occasions, I would also be thrilled if you all came along. It is a very, very useful committee. There's a lot of information in there that I think it's important. All elected members should come and hear. So Bruce Robertson, our independent chair, is very supportive of non-voting members still actually having the ability to ask questions and to provide feedback and speak. So,
And you can zoom in as well.
and you
Can't
can
get
zoom
there,
in as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bogue. Okay. If there's no further questions, I'm happy to move from the chair. Thank you, Councillor Crown. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now moving to the reports from the Ngāma Nuku o Te Iwi Committee, and noting that we do have, as part of the recommendations, an additional part which relates to the nomination and appointment of committee members from Ngāma Nuku o Te Iwi to our standing committees. So you will see that there is a Part B to the second agenda item, that we are approving the recommendations that have come through from the committee to appoint Darren Taraha to Sustainable Napier and Future Napier, Kirk Leonard to Prosperous Napier, Napier People and Places, and the Audit and Risk Committee. So I'm just highlighting that for you. Also, just quickly commenting, you will see that also under agenda item 1, there were some amendments to the terms of reference for the committee. They were essentially that the chair will be elected from the mana whenua representatives appointed to the committee, and that the council elected members on the committee no longer have voting rights because that was creating conflicts of interest when a recommendation that we voted on was coming to full council, which we then had to debate and vote on again. So it was just tidying up some bits in there. So open up if there's any further questions.
Sorry, just also they've got a new chair.
And we do have a new chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Bogue. So Fire Beverly Harmer Kemp is our new chair. So yeah, we're absolutely thrilled that she was happy to accept that position.
Just one other question, Madam Mayor. There was a question asked, I think, perhaps by Councillor Crown at the meeting that wasn't answered, and that was, could the committee make a submission to the Joint Alcohol LAP, and I think it just sort of got lost in the wash somewhere, but I don't recall a response to that. Are they able to make a submission as a committee to the LAP?
I can't see why they wouldn't be able to, and if we could have an action point just to follow that up with the committee.
Anyone can.
Thank you. Okay. So if there's no further questions, can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Pariha and Councillor Bogue. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. There is no reports under delegated authority, so that brings us to the conclusion of our open agenda. If I could have a mover and seconder for... Oh. Just received, there's none, do we still need to do that? Oh, okay, even though there is no reports under delegated authority, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Brown. So we're just accepting the motion that there's no reports. All those... There is a report in there. Okay. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So yes, moving into our public excluded, noting that we do have Greg Timms, HR consultant of Greg Timms and Associate, will be permitted to remain in the public excluded session for item 1. If I could have a mover, thank you, Councillor Mawson, Councillor Crystal. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. And I am going to keep moving, team, just really conscious of time, and we have got Greg zooming in, and we did tell him 12:25, so we've managed to... Are
we offline?
Yeah, and we will have staff, yeah, and